Primeval fans, and welcome to my ranking of all the episodes in Primeval Series 5. Ugh, let's do it. So, this is just like before, a personal list. So, this is completely subjective. All of my opinions are my own opinions. I'm not saying you should rank these like this. This is just an expression of opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. Just don't be nasty about it. Okay, so let's start at the bottom. Number 6. Now, this is a pretty obvious one. It's episode 3. For me, episode 3 just sucks. It is terrible. I mean, oh my god. The problem with this episode is that the story is bland. The whole Spring-Heeled Jack mystery type thing. They threw that in. Like, the episode almost tries to trick you into thinking there's a mystery plot, but when there really isn't. And then it focuses on Matt and Emily again. Emily returns for no reason. She's so shoehorned into Series 5, it's unbelievable. She was okay in Series 4, but she was pretty much a damsel in distress. She didn't need to be there. That whole plot with her and Ethan was terrible, but at least in the finale of Series 4, her departure brought some closure to the story. Her departure was the only thing that was conclusive about Series 4. Ugh. And then they bring her back. And the whole Spring-Heeled Jack thing, it really doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And, having the Raptors in Victorian London, I would say, is a bad move. Purely because we've seen the Raptors a lot of times now. They've been a little bit overused. I would actually say you'd be better off using something like a werewolf. Like, maybe have the wolves from Series 4 return and have them in Victorian London. It's just more... I think that would be personally more scary. The episode should have been much more scary than it was. Instead, we get a dull, boring, story with Matt and Emily. There's no teamwork here. Connor, all the stuff with Connor and Abby I don't even care about. I kind of forgotten most of this episode because it's so boring. Becca's there, but then he's not. It's a Matt and Emily episode. That's what bothers me, and my feelings about Matt Anderson, so yeah, it's easily the worst episode of the series and probably the worst episode of the UK show. It's so bad. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess, and it drags as well. It completely bored me. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Number 5 is the first episode, episode 1. Episode 1. This had the potential to be such an epic opening, and it completely fucked up. The first scene was quite funny with Lester in his car, stuck in traffic. The Beetle things are kind of a joke, really. I mean, they don't pose any kind of threat whatsoever. I don't believe they're scary at all. And it's so stupid how it tries to raise the stakes with Connor being captured. And then, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And this should have been a continuation after the last episode. I mean, originally, Series 4 and 5 were going to be one series, but they decided to split it into 2 series for whatever reason. So this should have continued directly after episode 7 of the previous series, which it didn't. And it, again, like... The acting is poor. Hannah Spirit's given up. Kieran McMenamin can't act for shit. It's boring. It's a boring episode. It just drags so much. Andrew Lee Potts tries with what he has, but there's nothing here. I think the creatures are just dull. There's nothing to them, really. Yeah. Okay, so number 4 would have to be the finale, which is episode 6. Episode 6 is not great at all. It's okay. I don't think it's terrible, but it's a very, again, it's just an action-centric episode. There are parts when it just doesn't... By this point, I've lost interest in the series, so I don't care about what happens. There's a decent amount of action in there. and there's some nice character moments, but really, generally speaking, it's a letdown because of the ending. Like, it doesn't wrap things up, it leaves things open. You have the two Matts at the end. It would have been better if they actually killed off Matt Anderson. I know I'm biased because I don't like the character, but even so, you know, would have been nice. And, you know, everybody's coupled off at the end. You know, Matt and Emily, Jess and Becca, Connor and Abby, Lester has his wife as well. And, you know, there's no... And, you know, also Philip as well. You know, he just suddenly realises that he was deceived by Helen, and then he decides to sacrifice himself. I mean, it would have been a lot more powerful, but it just wasn't. It was a boring episode, and as a conclusion, just not... It's just very by the numbers story, a very by the numbers. This is probably going to be a short video because I can't remember most of these episodes, to be honest. Okay, number 3 would have to be episode 4. So, number 3 is episode 4. Yeah, it's, I don't think it's awful. I give it a pass. It'll do, it's fine. It's a nice idea, you know, having the episode set entirely in the Ark, with the little Beatles, like the mini sort of Beatles. It's a bit of a rehash of episode 1 in that sense, with the Beatles, but, you know, I just don't get the whole concept of the man-made anomaly. Like, how the hell can they do that? They don't know how they open, they don't know when they open, and they don't know why they open. So how can they make one? It doesn't make sense. The problem with this episode is that it focuses on Jess and Becca's relationship. You know, the fact that Jess is dying. I mean, Ruth Kearney gives a great performance, and finally Jess gets involved in the action, which is good. And, you know, it's very much about the team trying to stick together. I mean, there's some nice tension between Connor and Abby as well, as Abby doesn't trust Philip, and, you know, she's saying to Connor, I just don't trust him, you know. And, you know, so there's tension there, but again, there's some dull moments. It kind of drags. It is a bit of a filler episode for the most part, and it's very forgettable. That's the problem with most of these episodes. They are just forgettable. But anyway, let's move on because I can't remember anything else. Okay, number 2 is actually episode 2. Now, again, a watchable episode, nothing spectacular. The dinosaurs are, like, I think it would have been better to have like an underground sort of sea creature, because it was set in the submarine. I mean, the setting is great because it feels very kind of claustrophobic. It gives the episode a more tense feel, and the submarine set, I think, is really cool. But the whole stuff with the Admiral doesn't really fit. It's not needed whatsoever. I guess this is kind of fun, but yeah, again, it's dull. There's dull moments, it's boring. Abby and Connor have some decent moments, I guess. Matt is there, as he usually is. There's not much to say, really. There really isn't much to say. But the setting is good, and I think that's what sets it apart from the rest of them, and you do feel that this one is probably the darkest and scariest of the 6 episodes that are in this series. The CGI and visual effects are very good, even though the raptors are back, which would have been nice to have something else, but oh well, if that's what we get. And of course, the first episode, and my favourite of the series, is episode 5. Yeah, episode 5. Yeah, I know it's been a very quick ranking, but I literally have nothing to say on these stories. episode 5, you know, I watched this one again recently, and, you know, I really want to like this more, but the problem is with this one, it's trying its hardest to be too dramatic and too emotional, and it just doesn't work for me. You know, I really feel that, you know, they're really laying it on thick. They're trying to make this too, you know, epic with the whole, you know, the big climax in New Dawn when everybody's fighting. I mean, again, this series doesn't invest you whatsoever, so you're just not interested by this point. Although we do get one hilarious moment from Matt as well. You know, Philip, no! Stop! Philip, no! That always makes me laugh. Other than that, the first half of this story is kind of filler as well. Like, it is the best of the series simply because there's a lot of action and a lot happens, but that doesn't say much. That really doesn't say much. Yeah, and, you know, Connor getting dragged through the anomaly at the end is so forced, and, you know, it's so silly the way that, you know, that pans out. Anyway, so yeah, that's my ranking of Series 5. Guys, I'm going to read back my list to you. Number 6 is Episode 3, number 5 is Episode 1, number 4, Episode 6, number 3, Episode 4, number 2 is Episode 2, and number 1 is Episode 5. So that's pretty much my ranking of Primeval Series 5. And that's it. The UK show is done. It's finished. And it ends with this crap. Series 5. What a terrible series. Honestly, that was really bad. I mean, there are some watchable episodes, but overall, a very dull, boring series. Looking like the show is tired. It doesn't know what to do. It's dragging itself along with pointless story arcs, stupid characters, and, you know, no conviction from really most of the cast. None of them seem to try even very much, apart from Andrew Lee Potts and, well, actually, you know, Ruth Kearney's good. She does try as Jess. Ben Miller is a nice presence to have in the series, I guess, as well. I'm glad that he survived throughout the series. But again, it's just the worst series because nothing stands out. The creatures aren't great. They just rehash the Raptors for most of them. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to say about it, to be honest. There is really nothing to say. It's the most forgettable series of them all. I mean, I thought Series 4 was a step down, but this is even worse. So yeah, that's the end of the UK Primeval, at least for now. Hopefully it will be revived someday. Heck, if I get a chance, I'll do it. I would happily revive this show. And, you know, as a 1 to 5, you know, the journey of the show, it's a shame that it went down. The first 2 series were amazing. They were the peak of the show and really sort of showed the promise of this series, of this show becoming brilliant. Series 3 was good, but it was a bit messy. Then 4 and 5 is when it goes really down. They just start to give up, really, and lose interest, which is a shame, because I do feel that this show had potential. It really did, but it let itself down. Oh well, what can you do? So, I am now going to be moving on to Primeval New World, which is the Canadian spin-off. I haven't actually seen it before as well, so this will be interesting. It's going to be 13 episodes, I think. So I'm looking forward to watching that just to see how it compares. I mean, I've heard reviews about it that it's not very good, but we'll have to find out. We'll have to wait and see. So yeah, that's my ranking of Series 5. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Put your comments down below. Let me know. And thank you all for watching. And as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See ya.